Okay, so you saw in that video there, the I think very soon this will be something that could be life altering for many people in many countries where there is a high mortality rate of mothers after giving birth. That you could have this production of essentially human milk that has so many of the necessary human proteins and antibodies coming from a cow that could be mass produced through cloning, um, compared to just coming from a mom, especially when a mom may die after birth. The other thing that we saw were those pigs and using pigs to provide human organs. So that is not science fiction, that is science reality. And I found this article today, which is kind of a bummer, but it has been done. It says second person to receive experimental pig heart transplant dies nearly 6 weeks after the procedure. So I just found this today on CNN. So I'll just share with you a little bit about it. There he is. So as Lawrence Fawcett, the second living person to receive a genetically modified pig heart in a transplant, has died 6 weeks after the experimental procedure. The University of Maryland Medical Center, where the experimental procedure had been performed, said the heart began to show signs of rejection in recent days. So that's sad. Mr. Fawcett's last wish was for us to make the most of what he had learned from our experience, of what we had learned from our experience, sorry, so others may be guaranteed a chance for a new heart when a human organ is unavailable. He then told the team of doctors and nurses who gathered around him that he loved us. We will miss him tremendously. So Mr. Fawcett, 58, was the first admitted to this University of Maryland Medical Center back on September 14th after experiencing symptoms of heart failure and underwent the experimental transplant 6 days later. His heart disease and pre-existing conditions made him ineligible for a traditional human transplant. So this is an example of what we saw from that video, and I've used that video for several years because I love the story about this cow and that human galactoalbumin. I completely slaughtered that. That human protein that they're going to be replacing in cows, producing mass quantities of mom's milk. And then here is this science reality that was pretty much science fiction at the time of the making of that video. Now, it isn't perfect, but it did give this man 6 more weeks with his family that he wouldn't have had because he was ineligible to be put on the human transplant list, which seems horrible, but it is what it is. The other part of this, just kind of showing you a couple of things here, and you have this in your notes, just kind of fill in some of the main points here. Commonly used GMOs. I don't know how that S got out there all by itself, but it did. So the percentage of GMO crops in the U.S., and for some reason there's some Canadian stuff. Sorry, I didn't notice that before we made copies of these, or I would have got rid of it. I don't have anything against Canada, but I'd rather have more room on our slideshow for us. Corn is a big one. So I mentioned that this is something that's been around and being used for a very long time. Cotton. Now, we don't eat cotton, so I think that probably a lot of us that might get the ickies about eating something that's been genetically modified don't when it comes to cotton. Sugar beets, don't really think about those on a daily basis, but there's a lot of things that we have that have soybeans in them. And you can see what they have been modified with or what they're transgenic for are bacteria genes. So Canada has some of their own. And then again, just the explanation of what transgenic means. It just means that they have genes from another species. And in this case, what's very commonly used are bacteria. So I mentioned that, in case you get the ickies, so you can look for these things. Not everyone, and again, there are regulations for this, but It's been a long time coming getting companies to label whether or not they're using genetically modified. We know now that they have to label if they're using milk or eggs or nuts. Um, but now, this genetic modification. So I just found a few of these just kind of poking around on the internet. So a lot of people might go for, and you might be one of those, non GMO, or something is organic, meaning that it's non GMO. It used to be back in the day, organic means that it wasn't hosed down with any type of spray, any type of chemical. But now, most times when people are thinking about organic, they're thinking about that going hand in hand with non GMO. Not always. But you can see I found some here that are proudly proclaiming that they're not made with genetically modified ingredients, like some Cheerios. And then Mars, this looks kind of like a peanut M&M bag, has some partially, it is partially produced with genetic engineering. And then I found this one here with Yoplait, which if you look at the back of a yogurt, it's a little bit more disturbing than just contains bio engineered food ingredients. If you look at it, it'll also mention something on there about bacterial cultures. So what makes yogurt taste like yogurt? It's the bacteria in it that produces lactic acid. So there you see those live active cultures.